Welcome back to the table, everyone. Today this is a vlog entry, semi-unboxing, but mostly I want to talk to you today about my journey down the rabbit hole into Napoleonics gaming beyond Commands and Colors Napoleonics, but getting into miniatures. And that's huge for me. And I want to talk about that. And I'm going to show you some stuff that I got here to help me on that journey. So I'm very excited. And I thought what I would do is maybe start with why I didn't do Napoleonics for so long. And I'll try and keep that brief because I know just so you know, if you don't want to watch a video just me talking about why Napoleonics, my journey so far, that's what this video is starting out. Then we'll do some unboxings and look through some very specific product ideas, products that we have here. So you can come back for those if you just want to see what comes in particular items. But, if you want to just hang out, talk Napoleonics for a bit, of course the conversation's one-sided, but certainly if you want to leave comments below, tell me about your journey with Napoleonics, please do. So that's what this video is all about, is the why. And then we'll get into details and mechanics and things a little bit later on. Okay, so the reason why I first haven't is because the initial fear of Napoleonics. Because when you mention that, that brings up a lot of it, like so many people interpret that so many ways. My interpretation was old men, big mustaches, that would argue about how many buttons would be on a particular jacket of a particular unit of a particular battle on a particular year. And, it could be very true, right? Because to me, I thought the Napoleonics crowd were just super, super picky about those kinds of things. And, some are, but not in a bad way. I think it's a very passionate community that I'm finding out. But I didn't realize that at the time. I just thought, yeah, there's no way. Plus, I thought the entry level would be extremely difficult because if you are that button counter and you get down to that specific, how could you use those troops in anything else? Like when you do Warhammer, I might paint up Space Marine, Ultramarine, something, right? You just make up a faction. But I could game them anywhere. They can fight on any planet, they're part of any battle, doesn't matter. You've just painted up Space Marines. Very generic. Same with like World War II gaming. I painted up a bunch of Germans. Now, you could get very specific. Some people do in their competitive gaming, so they're playing a specific unit. That's how it's geared and painted towards. That happens too, but some of those you tend to could be a little more generic. But I don't feel that way with Napoleonics. I do know of one rule set that does have that competitive gaming in mind, and it tells you how to build, from at the top of a unit down. But most of what I've seen from Napoleonics is based on battles, very historical battles that you'll play, like we do Waterloo, or we like to do Quatre Bras and Ligny, and so the units they have are specific to those battles. And yeah, you could proxy and use them elsewhere, but for some people that might not look right. So there just seems to be a little bit of intimidation of where to start. How do you do this when it has to be so specific? Because if I want to play, French versus Russians one day, and maybe next week we're going to do, British and French, now I have to go buy a bunch of British models. So it just seems sometimes that there's very high entry points. And so that kept me away for a long time. So what brought me around? What brought me around was I got a friend who plays Napoleonics, and he's got a lot of painted stuff, and he's kind of gone through that, but he's been playing for decades. And so he has a lot of figures painted and over his decades of gaming, and they are to specific units. Now he can proxy, and when we first played a couple games he said, and this is this unit, but they're not really that, but that's what they're being in this game. And then when we played a battle where he could actually use them, it's like, yes, this is the battle where these folks were. So there is a bit of that, and you can proxy, and if you don't know, I didn't know, he could have had a whole bunch of people laid out and said, yeah, these are all Austrians. And in reality, because they got Shakos and whatever, they could be, something entirely different. I wouldn't have known. So I could see how if this is your passion, you're going to notice those things and want to collect lots of figures. See, and that's where part of the other intimidation factor is. When I started looking, it was like, okay, what rule set? I've got some experience with Napoleon's battles. I've played a little bit, not much, but I've played a bit. And then you ask in the forum, and people, I found out there's hundreds of Napoleon's games. And people ask you, well, what scale are you looking for? What level of command do you want? And I'm like, I don't know. This is new to me. So, there's skirmish level all the way up to where you're in charge of armies, and that goes down to corps and divisions, and it's huge. So, you got to know, where am I getting in at that level? Do I like to control my battalions where I'm emphasizing that they're in square or line, you're down to that tactical level? Or do you like to higher up? Because if you're down at the tactical level, you can't do big games like Waterloo, because then you would need thousands of figures, more than what you normally have, and that would take forever to try and manage that if you wanted to play that game with a tactical set. Then they have games where you can do pickup, like Black Powder. You have your units, you can get specific, but they're kind of in at that tactical level a little bit, and then you can pull out. And then you have games where there's just so many. So it's like, okay, where do I start there? Then, once you find a rule set, you got to have figures. So, am I 10 millimeter, 20 millimeter, 28 millimeter, 6 millimeter, 10 millimeter? I mean, 50. There's so many. And because if you're going to make that investment and eventually have your thousands of figures, you need to know early on some of that. You might buy a few things here to experiment and see what they look like, and if you're comfortable playing with them. But if you only buy a few to check out the miniatures, that's not enough to actually play a game. So again, it's a lot of decisions to make. And then it's like, okay, I found a scale, but what company? Because this company might make some of these, this company makes some of that, but there's a whole lot. I mean, just so much. So I went on to Facebook and, just kind of asked over a couple different games. And so here we go. Here's where it comes down to the drum roll. Where am I going? A company I came up a couple times was the Wargaming company. They put out some rules, ESR. Et Sans Resultat. I can't speak French, so I already butchered that. So ESR is what I hear a lot of people just call it as. And I heard a lot of nice things. Couple things I heard was, one, they provide the rules and they have the miniatures to support. Great, because now I can get some rules, I can get campaign books, scenarios, and the miniatures that come in the scale that's recommended, and you can get everything from them. It's kind of like if you were going to get into like Warhammer or something. That one company provides everything you need. They provide the rule books, the miniatures. It's great. And that to me I thought was important, because then I wasn't having to figure out, because I had picked up some stuff in the 20 millimeter scale or 1/72, because I was going to try March Attack, which I still am going to try that out. I kind of like some of the ideas there. But when I was picking out miniatures, there were so many companies. There's Hat and Italer, all your standard miniature companies can make stuff. So what do you buy? So what was cool here with ESR is if you look on their website, they've got boxes that are starter boxes. Like, you can have your French versus Russian, French versus Austrians, French versus Prussians. I haven't seen a lot of British stuff. I don't think they have any British yet, but I'm pretty sure British are coming, because you got to lead up to Waterloo at some point. So that's where I went. So I said to myself, Eddie, see if you can work some of that YouTuber influence. Talk to David and see if you can work something out. So I did. I reached out to David at the Wargaming company, and let me tell you, that guy is phenomenal. I watched on YouTube their video of how to play ESR. He worked with the Armchair Dragoons. If you're not familiar with that, check it out on YouTube. Phenomenal video. Explained a lot about the game. Helped, kind of answer questions that I had, and kind of got me interested in the system. And then just talking to David, he's very, very passionate about the game. Like, he was in that video explaining the rules, so he cares. Plus, I went and followed him on Facebook, so I'm not David, I'm not stalking him, but the Wargaming company. And he is like that's where he lives. I mean, he is answering questions. I mean, the support is phenomenal. And that was some of the feedback I got when looking around, was just how awesome this is. And my experience so far has just been phenomenal. And I'm not saying that other companies can't provide that level of service and help and things like that, but it has definitely been a very nice experience working with, well, I say working as though I've got like a partnership or something, which I am trying to establish a partnership with David. We talked about that, and what that means, I don't know. So I'm hoping this is the first steps to developing a strong partnership with the Wargaming company so I can bring you more ESR content, because that's what we have today. So that's what's going to help me on my journey, because one, like I said, that gives me rules, that gives me a compatible scale miniatures. All those problems that I thought I had are answered just through this one company. Now, of course, everything is subjective to what you think is best. Like, I'm with you. You know, so you might say, well, I don't like, you know, that's fine. But I'm saying, so far in my experience, this has been great. Absolutely love it. And when I opened this, so yesterday, this came in the mail yesterday, and I didn't get it out of my mail. I didn't, thank you USPS, they stuck it in my mailbox, so they didn't stick it on my porch. So I didn't even know I had this until later that night. I went out and said, you know, I've just checked the mailbox, and it was in our mailbox. Yes, we have a large mailbox because I get packages all the time. So this, they can just shove that in my mailbox. And I cut it open. My wife, she said, wait, why are you opening that now? I thought you were going to do an unboxing. People don't want to watch me fumble with shrink wrap and tape, I told her. Some people like it. They think it's funny because they like to say, well, you're really struggling with that cellophane. Yep. So I just pre-cut. But this is the thing that impressed me right away. David took the time to write me a handwritten note about the contents and his recommended where I should start. Again, it doesn't have to do that. Amazing. Love it. Love the level of support there. Okay, so what do we have in the box? So first, this is great. We have a box, Et Sans Resultat. I hope that's close to pronunciation, but it's the 2-player core box set. It's the 1812 starter box. We've got French and Russian. It says ready to fight. And of course, you have to glue them and paint them, but again, talking about what you get just briefly, we'll do a separate opening of this later, but you get the bases and you get flags. And that's another reason why I was super happy, you know, learning more about the Wargaming company is, again, a lot of those things that people would have to do separately are included for you. So for example, I did buy a bunch of that, you know, 1/72 scale stuff, but now I have to come up with my own bases and buy those separately, and then, you know, pay shipping for that. And then if I want flags, man, my buddy is amazing. He can freehand some flags that look great. I didn't know they were freehanded until he's told me, and I looked and I was like, oh, I can tell you painted those, but they're great. But here, I don't have to worry about that. It's got flags and everything. So this is fantastic. So we've got that. We'll look and see how those are later. And then the sticker. Got to have a Wargaming company sticker. Then the player's guide. This is the complete player's guide, which again we'll do like a separate unboxing for that. And then this is, if I'm not mistaken, which I could be, it wouldn't be the first time, I believe this is the newest campaign book. So this is Napoleon in Russia, and didn't dare do anything. Some of the names of his campaign guides are kind of cool. So this is quoting, well, not a quote, but it's talking about a Russian commander, because I had to look and see, like, what the heck is that for? I guess there was I think a Russian or French, I forget who. We'll look. But there was a commander that I guess was so cautious about making any mistakes that he pretty much never did anything, because didn't dare do anything, because he didn't want to make any mistakes. So anyway, I just thought that was an interesting name. So there you go. This is what we're going to use to get started into Napoleonics. And I will say this though, because then it comes down to painting. The player guide will go through, I'm told they have, or the campaign guide. I think the campaign guide has like painting guides, so I can get ideas for painting these guys, but obviously these are going to be unpainted. So when I first start playing, I've been thinking about that. I want to learn and I want to play, but I'm not the type of person who likes to have everything painted before I play. But at the same time, painted miniatures look gorgeous when you play a game like this. So I've been debating. I think what I'm going to do is, one, I'm experimenting with contrast paints from GW, Games Workshop. So if I can find some contrast paints that I like that I could use on these figures, that will help me kind of like batch paint a bunch of stuff. And my goal is I'll paint like a base and mount it, flock it, and whatnot. And so there might be some games that when you watch me play that you'll just see the bases moving. Just blank bases, maybe with a label of the unit. Just blank bases moving, and like one base of painted figures that are flocked, you know? And over time, you'll start to see the figures populate the bases. But until I get comfortable painting these, you know, I want to play and I want to learn. So if I have to just push the bases around until I can get, you know, stuff painted, I am more than willing to do that. So, you know, take my journey. That's what this is. This is my journey into Napoleonics. So we've got the rules, we've got figures. Over time, we'll discuss rules and concepts and things that I encounter. I've asked a bunch of questions on Facebook that we had answers, and obviously I'll have more. And so if you don't mind hanging out for the next few videos over the next few months, we'll probably heavily be into ESR because Napoleonics is huge. So just stay tuned. And again, feel free to comment, share your own experiences with Napoleonics. Maybe if you have experiences with ESR, you could share that. If you have experiences with other rule sets that you enjoy, please share, because I always love looking for new rule sets. That's the thing. I collect rules. I might not play everything, but I like to collect stuff. So share what you're playing. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. Stay with me over the next couple of days, and we're going to share some unboxing videos and look specifically at the contents of the books that we have here and the contents of the miniature box. And we'll kind of go from there. All right, thanks everyone. Bye-bye.